remembering those that survived the sinking of the RMS Titanic on April 15, 1912. The information provided was obtained and used from findagrave.com. This video contains passengers and employees with the last names starting with R. The remaining survivors will follow shortly. Thomas Ranger, born 1882, in England. He worked on the Titanic as a greaser. Thomas survived the sinking in Lifeboat 4. He passed away in 1964, at the age of 81. Thomas is buried in England, in an unmarked grave. He was the last surviving greaser on the Titanic. The next survivor is Frederick Dent Ray, born 1879, in England. In 1908, he was married, and they remained childless. Frederick worked on the Titanic as a dining room saloon steward, first class. He survived the sinking in Lifeboat 13. Frederick returned home to his wife for recuperation from ill health. He appeared at the American Inquiry on the disaster. Frederick was interviewed by Walter Lord for his book, A Night to Remember. In 1952, his wife passed away. Frederick remarried a few months later. He passed away at a hospital in 1977, at the age of 97, due to complications from fracturing his hip. Frederick was cremated and his ashes were scattered in England. The next survivor is Lillian Jeffries Renouf, born 1892, in New York. She boarded the Titanic as a second-class passenger. Lillian's husband accompanied her, along with family friends. When the Titanic sank, all the male members of their group went down with the ship. The women all survived, in Lifeboat 12. Lillian remarried to Mr. Black. She passed away in 1977, at the age of 85. Lillian is buried in New York. The next survivor is Encarnacion Reinaldo, born 1882, in Spain. The 1911 census reveals she had been married and had 3 children, one whom was lost at infancy. Encarnacion was working and living in England. She boarded the Titanic as a second-class passenger. Encarnacion was on her way to New York, where her sister resided. She was rescued in Lifeboat 9. Following the disaster, Encarnacion spent time in Puerto Rico, where she married Mr. Gonzalez. In 1913, they had 1 daughter and relocated in New York, where they had 3 more children. Encarnacion was widowed after 9 years. She passed away in 1964, at the age of 81. Encarnacion is buried in New York. The next survivor is George Alexander Lucien Reams, born 1879, in New York. He boarded the Titanic as a first-class passenger and was accompanied by his brother-in-law. George managed to climb aboard collapsible Lifeboat A. His brother-in-law perished in the sinking. George continued to work at the family firm. They lived in Washington and California in the 1930s. In 1950, the family moved to France, where his wife passed away. George then remarried. He passed away in 1963, at the age of 84, due to myocardial infarction. George is buried in France. The next survivor is Charles John Rice, born 1880, in England. In 1897, he joined the Royal Navy, serving on several ships. His conduct in the Navy was recorded as being from fair to very good, but was shown to have spent numerous periods in the cells for bad behavior. Charles later began a relationship with Mary Ann. He was a fireman on the Titanic. His monthly income was £6 or $29.20. Charles was rescued in Lifeboat 10. Following the disaster, Charles and his wife settled in Southampton, and they had a daughter. Charles continued to work at sea. During World War I, he rejoined the Royal Navy. Charles passed away in 1949 at the age of 69. He is buried in England, in an unmarked grave. The next survivor is the Richards family. Mother, Emily Hawking Richards. Son, William Rowe Richards. Son, Sibley George Richards. Emily Hawking Richards, born 1887, in England. She boarded the Titanic with her 2 sons, and her brother, and were second-class passengers. They all were rescued in Lifeboat 14. Emily's brother perished in the sinking. She passed away in 1972, at the age of 85, due to pneumonia. William Rowe Richards, born 1909, in England. Another unfortunate event for William was that he lost all his clothes. With the help of passengers on the Carpathia, they made blankets into a nightgown for him, which led to one of the most famous pictures of the Titanic survivors. William outlived his brother by 1 month. He passed away in 1988, at the age of 78, due to heart failure. Sibley George Richards, born 1911, in England. He passed away in 1987, at the age of 76. Sibley is buried in the same cemetery with his mother. William is buried in another cemetery, all located in England. The next survivor is Lucy Ridsdale, born 1854, in England. She left her home in England and boarded the Titanic. Lucy was rescued by the Carpathia. She lived with her sisters in Ohio and Wisconsin before settling in Illinois. Lucy never married. She had about $4,000 worth of belongings, but died penniless when all was lost at sea. Lucy passed away in 1946, at the age of 91. She is buried in Illinois, in an unmarked grave. The next survivor is Hannah Reardon, born 1891, in Ireland. She survived the sinking of the Titanic. Hannah was naturalized as a U.S. citizen in 1928. In her application, she is described as a maid. In 1936, Hannah married Mr. Spolin III. The couple had no children. Hannah passed away in 1982, at the age of 91. She is buried in New York. The next survivor is Elizabeth Walton Macmillan Robert, born 1858, in Pennsylvania. Following the death of her second husband, Elizabeth and her daughter sought to escape their sorrow by taking a trip to Europe. They returned on the Titanic. They all survived the sinking in Lifeboat 2. She passed away in 1956, at the age of 97, due to heart failure. Elizabeth is buried in Missouri. The next survivor is Mary Kezia Humphreys Roberts, born 1870, in England. She was a stewardess on the Titanic. Mary's monthly income was £3 or $14.60. She was rescued from the sinking, but in which lifeboat is unknown. 2 years later, Mary survived the sinking of the HMHS Rohilla. She passed away in 1932, at the age of 61, due to heart failure. Mary is buried with her husband, in England. The next survivor is Annie Franklin Robinson, born 1865, in England. She worked on the Titanic as a stewardess. Annie survived the sinking in Lifeboat 11. She jumped off the SS Devonian when the ship stopped in the fog, and she feared another disaster. Annie was presumed drowned. She passed away in 1914, at the age of 49. Annie was lost at sea. The next survivor is Charles Hollis Romaine, born 1866, in Kentucky. His life appeared as fascinating as it was ironic. Charles moved to London to serve as a managing director of a trust company. He boarded the Titanic under the alias C. Romaine. Charles also traveled under other aliases including Henry Romaine and C. H. Romaque. He was a high society gambler. Charles hobnobbed with the wealthy while on the Titanic. He survived the sinking. His lucky break found him back in Indiana. Charles managed the Hotel Doxy. In 1916, he moved to New York and resumed a banking career, only to get struck and killed by a New York cab 1 block from his home 10 years later. Charles passed away in 1922 at the age of 55. He is buried in Indiana with his wife. His sister passed away 4 months later. The next survivor is Horace Leopold Ross, born 1874, in England. He was married in 1894, and they would have 4 children, losing 2 during infancy. Horace's occupation was listed as a slater. He signed on to the Titanic as a scullion. Horace's monthly income was £3 or $14.60. He was rescued in Lifeboat 13. Horace returned to England and continued to serve in the merchant service. He passed away in 1940 at the age of 66. Horace is buried in England. In a strange twist, his death notice, in the Hampshire Advertiser, places him directly above that of another Titanic personality, who died the same day as him. The next survivor is Sarah I. Rothiles, born 1885, in Poland. Her family appear living in England, having just relocated there, from Austria. By 1891, she was an inmate at a Jews' hospital and orphan asylum. In 1911, Sarah was described as a tailoress and coat finisher. She was engaged to be married. Sarah boarded the Titanic as a third-class passenger. She was rescued in Lifeboat C. Following her arrival in New York, Sarah wed Mr. Isles, in the hospital, only 1 week after the disaster, wearing a dress donated to her by the Women's Relief Committee. The couple had 1 child. Sarah passed away in 1947 at the age of 61. She is buried in Connecticut, in an unmarked grave. The next survivor is Elizabeth Jane Ann Barrett Rothschild, born 1858, in New York. In 1895, she married Mr. Rothschild, in New York. They boarded the Titanic. On the night of the sinking, Elizabeth and her Pomeranian dog were rescued in Lifeboat 6. Elizabeth returned to Watkins Glen every summer, where she was known for her generosity. She received the Papal Distinguished Merit Cross, awarded by Pope Pius XII. Elizabeth was in active philanthropic affairs of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese in New Jersey and New York. Her most well-known contribution to the Watkins Glen was paying for the land to expand St. Mary's Catholic Cemetery and paving the narrow road. Elizabeth passed away in 1943 at the age of 85. She is buried in the Rothschild Barrett Mausoleum, located in New York. The next survivor is MBE George Thomas Roe, born 1881, in England. He worked on the Titanic as a quartermaster. During the sinking, George fired rockets from the Titanic to attract the attention of the mystery ship, which never responded. He commanded Lifeboat C. George was portrayed by Cyril Chamberlain in A Night to Remember 1958 and Richard Graham in Titanic 1997. He was the last surviving deck crew member on the Titanic. George passed away in 1974 at the age of 92. He is buried in England, in an unmarked grave. The next survivor is Emily Rugg, born 1889, in Bailiwick of Guernsey. She survived the Titanic, leaving in Lifeboat 12. Emily lived the rest of her life in Delaware. She never married. Emily passed away at a hospital in 1958, at the age of 68, due to heart disease. She is buried in Delaware. The next survivor is Samuel James Rule, born 1854, in England. He worked on the Titanic as a bathroom steward, first class. Samuel survived the sinking in Lifeboat 15. After the disaster, he allegedly suffered mental illness. Samuel passed away in 1915 at the age of 61 on the 3rd anniversary of the disaster. He is buried in England. The next survivor is Edith Louise Rosenbaum, born 1879, in Ohio. She boarded the Titanic under the name Edith Russell and was a first-class passenger. Her occupation was listed as a journalist. She survived the sinking in Lifeboat 11, along with her lucky toy pig that played the song Mashish. Pictured here is a mirror similar to the one in stateroom A11, occupied by Edith. On the right is the mirror in A11 room today. Edith was interviewed by many Titanic historians, and by Walter Lord, for his book, A Night to Remember. Edith is standing beside the dress she was wearing the night the Titanic sank. She is holding the pig music box she was given for luck before she boarded the Titanic. She passed away in 1975 at the age of 95. Edith is buried in England. The whereabouts of her remains is unknown. Following her death, Walter Lord was given the pig as a collection. After Walter Lord passed away in 2002, the pig was sold at auction in 2011. The next survivor is Edward Ryan, born 1888, in Ireland. He boarded the Titanic as a third-class passenger. Edward was traveling to New York. He managed to board Lifeboat 14 by wearing a towel over his head. When Edward arrived in New York, he gave his occupation as a chauffeur. Edward moved back to England, working for Rose, Downs, and Thompson Limited. He was married, and together they had 3 children. Edward passed away in 1974 at the age of 86. He is buried in England. The next survivor is Ellen O'Dwyer Ryan, born 1889, in Ireland. She was married to Mr. Ryan. Ellen boarded the Titanic as a third-class passenger. She was rescued in Lifeboat 10. The couple settled in New York and had twin sons. Ellen was carrying a 3rd child when she passed away prematurely in 1917 at the age of 27. She is buried in New York. The next survivor is William Edwy Ryerson, born 1878, in Canada. In 1911, he signed on with the Cunard Line as a steward, then joined the White Star Line in 1912 as a steward 2nd class. William survived the sinking in Lifeboat 9. In 1919, he returned to Canada along with his wife. They would have 6 children. About 1940, the family moved back to England. William passed away in 1949 at the age of 71. He is buried in England. To commemorate the 100th anniversary, the church authorities laid a gravestone over William's long unmarked burial plot and held a memorial. The next survivor is the Ryerson family. Mother, Emily Maria Bory Ryerson Sherfasee. Daughter, Susan Parker Ryerson. Daughter, Emily Bory Ryerson Cook. Son, John Bory Ryerson. Emily Maria Bory Ryerson Sherfasee, born 1863, in Pennsylvania. The family had been on vacation in Europe. They received news that their oldest son Arthur had been killed as a result of an automobile accident. Cutting their vacation short, Emily boarded the Titanic, along with her husband and 3 of their children. The family were first-class passengers. Emily and her 3 children were rescued in Lifeboat 4, but her husband perished in the sinking. In 1927, Emily married Mr. Sherfasee. She passed away in 1939 at the age of 76. Emily is buried in New York. Susan Parker Ryerson, born 1890, in Illinois. She married Mr. Patterson. She passed away in 1921 at the age of 30 due to appendicitis. Susan is buried in New York. She is remembered on a plaque. Emily Bory Ryerson Cook, born 1893, in Illinois. She was married to Mr. Clark in 1915 and had 7 children. Shortly after 1932, the Clarks were divorced. Emily then married Mr. Cook, who was an artist, actor, and writer. She passed away in 1960, at the age of 66. Emily is buried in New York. John Bory Ryerson, born 1898, in Illinois. He was a graduate of Yale University. John held a brief banking position in Illinois in the 1920s, before returning most of his attention to golf. In 1930, he bought the Otsego Golf Club in New York, playing golf with several greats as Bobby Jones, Julius Boros, Gene Littler, and Babe Zaharias. John was a championship golfer, and was reported to have played on more than 1,015 different courses. He eventually increased that number to over 1,400 by the end of his life. John's accomplishment was featured in Ripley's Believe It or Not. In 1951, he was married, and the couple would have no children. By the 1980s, John was diagnosed with early stages of dementia. In 1985, Alzheimer's disease had claimed almost all of John's cognition. He was admitted to a nursing facility in Florida. When the Titanic was discovered, John was in his final throes of the disease, without ever fully grasping the news. Pictured here is John and his sister Emily on the set of the 1953 film Titanic, with actress Audrey Dalton. John passed away peacefully in 1986, at the age of 87. He is buried in New York in the Ryerson family plot. If you like this content, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel at MeTime806. Thank you very much.